Okay, welcome back, ENG 360, and let's see, on listing 1-2 we did a 2-bit comparator, but we kind of did it the hard way. We did it with SOP implementation. We've already done a 1-bit comparator, so what we really should do is use the 2-bit or use the 1-bit comparator in construction of the 2-bit comparator. So let's do that. Let's do File, New Project, and what we'll do is we'll call this guy listing 1, 3, or 1 and 3, okay? And then yeah, these are all fine. Spartan 3E, 500, Flat Grid 320, VHDL. That's good. We'll finish. Okay. Now, what I want to do here is I want to create new source, and that new source is going to be my 2-bit comparator, VHDL module. All right. And on the 2-bit comparator, we had what? A, B, and A equal B. This guy was an output. These two are both buses, and they were 2-bit buses. All right, and then we finish. Okay, take out the comment statements, and there you go. There is our stubbed out version of EQ2. We've defined the entity, and we just need to populate the architecture. Okay. So at this point right here, what we need is I need to get a version of EQ1. So let me come down here and create a new source file. And it's a VHDL module, EQ1. Now I could import it, but I don't think I called it EQ1 in the previous video. So we'll just create it from scratch. There's EQ1, and what'd that guy have? On EQ1, what did we call EQ1? We had the inputs were, I think they were like what, I0? There was I0, and then we had I1, and then what do we have as the output, EQ? And these guys were all 1 bit, so all I have to do is set in and out. All right, and that's fine. So now I've got 2 files. Let's take the comments out of EQ1. All right, there's EQ1 right there. And let's save everything. So you notice I've got 2 files. I got EQ2 and I got EQ1. Well, we need to put in the guts to EQ1, so let's do that really quick. I think I'll just copy and paste right here. I have the code. I think we had 2 internal variables, P0 and P1, and yeah, here's the code right here. I think we did an SOP implementation. All right, there you go. So there is the code for our EQ1. We just had P0 and P1. Those were the 2 min terms. We ordered them together, and we got that. All right. So now, if I go to EQ1, let's go to simulation. And let's see, let's select on EQ1 and check syntax. Okay, EQ1 looks good. Now let's go back to EQ2 because I want to build EQ2 based on EQ1. And what I do here is I just instantiate 2 instances of EQ1. I go to my architecture block right after my begin keyword, and I instantiate those guys. Okay. So when you look at what's happening here, I am creating an instance of EQ1. Okay. Now notice EQ1 is a file in this project, and it says SOP architecture. Well, I better make sure that this guy here is an SOP architecture. Well, it's not. Okay, so we need to go change that. So let's copy this and put that into here. Okay. And since we made changes to EQ1, well, we better come along here and compile EQ1. Okay. All right, it compiles. But notice what happened here. When I've got my EQ1, which hasn't really changed. I changed the type right here, which is just the name telling you how you implement it. It's you can make whatever you want. But the minute I put these 2 statements in here, I instantiated 2 instances of EQ1. I called one EQ bit 0 unit, and this one I called EQ bit 1. Well, notice what happened in my Explorer window. All of a sudden, it put that EQ1.VHD in a nested level under EQ2. And since I had 2 instances, it put 2 instances of those files. Now, if I close EQ1 and I double click over here, it brings it back up. Okay. So at this point, I've made two instances. Now, when you instantiate an instance of something, I'm telling it it's in the current project work, it's EQ1, and the architecture is SOP. Then you have to have your port map statement. Well, what are the variables of EQ1? Well, they're I0, I1, and EQ. I have to map those to variables of my current project. So I'm going to map I0 to the first bit of A, I1 to the first bit of B, and then EQ, the output of my 1 bit, I'm going to map to E0, which I haven't declared yet. Well, here I'm creating a second instance of that guy. And again, I'm going to map my component variables to variables of my current file, A1, B1, and E1. Now, I haven't defined E1 and E0, so I need to do that. And I can do that by a simple signal statement right here. Okay. And there you go. So what we've done here is I'm creating a 2-bit comparator by instantiating two instances of a 1-bit comparator. I'm mapping the component variables on the left to the current file variables on the right. And then I'm generating two outputs, E0 and E1, that are local variables in the architecture that I use down here, ANDing them together to get AEQ2, which is an output of an EQ2. All right? So at this point, what we can do is we can select EQ1, double-click behavioral check syntax to make sure it compiles, then select EQ2 and see if that one compiles, and it looks good. So at this point right here, we need to do a test bench file to simulate this. All right, well, I think I'll do that in the next video. All right, so we'll stop right here, and I will see you in the next one to simulate.